WTBQ. Here's what happened when they decided to cut loose. Go on, take the money and run. Go on, take the money and run.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Yep, go on and take the money and run. And they do. I was there. I went out to the Hamptons, I saw them. I went out to Cape Cod. I went to Nantucket. Man, you would never know there was a glitch in the economy if you go to these places. Hey, welcome to my show. That's where the money is. It's going to be a cool show because I've been doing studying, as I've mentioned on the last few shows. I'm reading studies. So I'm doing a study, but I'm reading studies on the generation behind me, who's going to be the next generation of business owners and, parents, families, homeowners, people that are going to put money in banks. So the world is depending on this generation that they're labeling the millennials. So I don't particularly care for the term. It sounds like an alien from another country. But all of our businesses are, going to be handed off to the next generation. We're going to get old and we want to go off and do our thing. I'm 49 years old, so I'm going to be 50 in 6 months. So I'm a different generation. I'm generation, I think I'm like between baby boomer and X. But the millennials, I was reading and talking about for the last few weeks, because my industry is banking and finance and mortgages, and it's got a bit of a hiccup. And I'm reading about it, and they're all waiting for it to come back and come back. It's going to come back, and it's going to come back. The only way it would come back is the quote-unquote millennials step up to the plate, pull the trigger, and buy a house or start a business or buy cars, and they move on through life. But I had a discussion this morning with Dan Bolger, who's on the show with me now. He's my guest.
Good morning.
And I'd taken a break from the morning show this morning. I came back, and I'm reading about millennials. But I had a brief 15-second discussion. He asked me, what are you going to be talking about today? Or Frank asked me, and I said, I'm going to be talking about Dan's generation.
You had an epiphany, huh?
I did, and I said, why am I reading about it? And reading these studies out of Washington and Wall Street spending millions and millions to figure out how to tap the millennials for their business, for growth, to move on to the next stage and move on to the next level. So I'm thinking, why read about it? Why don't I just speak to someone who's in that generation? Now, the definition of millennials, for folks that are listening, is between 18 and 29 years old. These are the generation that was born in the 80s and the 90s. So here we are.
And you were talking about the X before. Does that cover the 29 to the other generation?
Yeah, it's like 30s and 40s. Okay. So I'm at the tail end of it. I was at the tail end of the baby boomers.
What exactly does the baby boomers cover?
The baby boomers are up to 1964, I think.
Okay.
Actually, Rich would probably know better than I do. The baby boomer generation, I forget.
I want to say it dips into the 60s.
Mid-60s. And then I'm 66, 1966. Mm-hmm. And then we were, Generation X or whatever.
And then they came up with this name, millennials.
The millennials. So here we are with Dan Bolger, who's 23.
23, yes, sir.
Okay. I remember my father when he was 23. My parents had us when we were young.
Yep.
So how many of your friends, you probably have a group of friends, 5 good friends, that are, your closest friends.
Sure, absolutely.
How many of your friends are married, your closest friends?
Oh, man. So out of my closest friends, none of them are married. One of them will be getting married actually next month, so that'll change, but currently none.
Yeah, we all waited till later to get married.
Yep.
My generation just started to see the divorce boom. So we didn't really have a lot of single parents when we were growing up, but the next generation, my brother's generation behind me, 10 years younger, started seeing, the separation. And we were all in shock. Like, did you hear that this neighbor just got divorced? That neighbor just got divorced. That neighbor got divorced.
It's awful, yeah.
Now, that's the way it is. Yeah. It's like, they're still married?
Yeah.
Your parents are still...
It's like a shock, right?
Yeah, it's like they have the original tires on the car. It's like since you bought the car.
They've really been married for 20 years?
Yeah, so
How am I saying congratulations, huh?
That's the big surprise, where in my generation was, did you hear so-and-so's parents are splitting up? So now it's vice versa. So now with technology, with the computer, I've been pretty astute. I kind of pay attention to what happens in life, and I see how things change.
You're right there with the times.
I think... I hung out with a lot of younger people, so I think that's part of my youth. And
49 years old. I mean, there's a lot of people that are 49 years old that do not know how to operate the things that you do. So you're in good shape, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I attribute that to hanging out with, a generation or two behind me.
Sure.
So, I like the music, I like the people, I like the thinking. And I was telling you before, I was reading about the millennials and their solutions for some of the problems that my generation and slightly older has come up against. And one of the issues is marriage. I mean, you're not going to go out. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're going to give me a lot more information. It maybe my show, but you're really the guy with all the information for this subject, for this topic. And the topic is your generation. You're married, so obviously you're thinking, well, soon, if we do have another kid, we're going to have to get a house. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Something we think about, sure.
So your other 4 friends, are they thinking about buying houses?
Oh, no. They worry about what kind of beverage they're drinking on the weekend.
I mean, yeah, a little bit different than my parents, because my parents' generation, they were all pretty much married and out, house hunting and relying on their parents for the down payment, if they didn't have, fantastic job back in the 60s or 70s. My father bought the house in 1968, but he was like 20... Oh, gosh, I'd say he's probably about 25 years old, 24 years old. So what I'm seeing is with the younger generation is exactly that. They're not getting married young. I didn't. I got married 3 years ago, so I waited. And probably part of the reason was the business I was in, I wasn't doing mortgages for people to buy houses because they just got married. I did mortgages because people were in trouble. They refinanced the house to pay off their bills. They refinanced the house right away because they got to send the kids to college. They refinanced the house. The main reason, I hate to say it, was to buy out their ex.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that all the time. And when you're dealing with 10 or 15 people a day, and I have a staff, and you see all the applications come in for approvals, and it's buy out ex-wife, buy out ex-husband, buy out ex-wife, buy out ex-husband. At the end of the day, the last thing I was going to say is,
depressing.
I want to go home to my wife. It's,
Oh, man.
so it was kind of tough.
I know why you like your margaritas.
Yes,
now.
I do. Yes, right. And on my business card. That's
Yes.
right. So, just talking about the topic of millennials and, the way, guys are thinking or gals are thinking nowadays. The one thing I did read in Forbes just yesterday was the solution for divorce. Their solution is avoid marriage.
I mean, you have a pretty good percentage of not getting divorced if you never get married at all, right?
I'd say you got a great shot of getting an A. And
Triple figure digit there.
Well, it's sad because I see all the kids that went through the separation of parents, and I don't want to make it a medical subject or psychological show. I'm into finance, but it all ties in. If your parents were divorced, it was a big impact on the kids. It's always a big impact on the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad left us when I was probably like 10, 11, 12 years old. At the time when you really need a father to show you how to become a man and stuff like that. So, it definitely affected me, but I lived through it. It was
Yeah, you got married.
Yeah, much closer to my mom, but it helps me in today in the fact to keep everything afloat and keep everything good with my family, because I know how it is for a family to fall apart like that. So, think about it all the time. Got to make the right decisions.
Huh, good for you, Dan.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So it's funny because my father always said, out of a negative thing comes a positive.
Yeah,
Out of a
that's what I
positive
try
thing
to
comes a
look at it
negative.
as.
So that's pretty cool. I like
Yeah.
your look on things. I never really had this discussion with you before. That's pretty cool. So your friends are probably going with the let's not get divorced so I won't get married.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just experimenting with different girls on the weekends. This one will come over on a Thursday.
Right.
This one will come over on a Sunday. Just bouncing around, just living the lifestyle as young 20s, I guess. But no, they don't have too much responsibility or anything.
You see why I waited to get married?
Yeah,
That's right. I figured I'd just wait a little bit and get that out of my system.
Man.
I don't need any help messing things up. I'm doing a great job myself.
I guess I'm missing a little bit. I don't know.
Well, maybe, but you know what? If you found the one you love, I mean,
Yeah.
I finally did, and I'm married, so I'm happy. The
So you're
kids are
happy.
cool. Yeah, everything's cool. I'm good. Knock on wood, everything's cool.
Yeah.
So getting to getting to banking and mortgage finance, because the next step is one kid. I read the millennials are saying with one. Well, they're not really looking for kids or marriage, really. Like the first batch that they did the study on just said just avoid it until you get older, till things slow down and you're economically stable. So to buy a house now and you're 23, not that easy.
No, it's tough.
Okay. So you got to put, I mean, there's other mortgage products out there, but you have to put, rule of thumb's 20% down.
Okay.
You don't have to. You can get an FHA loan, put 3% down. But if you're looking at, say, in your category, you're probably looking at like a $300,000 house in this region. That's $60,000 that you have to write a check for a down payment.
I know, it's crazy to think about, and I'm very blessed in the fact that my wife is actually in the real estate industry. She knows all that stuff, so I just basically follow her lead. But, you know, we're looking up stuff every day, trying to find what's best for us, so I'm just basically following the lead. But I'm very blessed to have, you know, that in my life.
Yeah, you're smart.
Yeah.
Well, it's the roof over your head. You know, it's not like, you know, you're talking about fertilizing the grass, or you're talking about which trees I should, you know, put in. You're talking about, you know, your future. This is where your kid's going to sleep.
I mean, hey,
night.
they call it the biggest investment, you know, that you're going to make in your life, right?
Is the
Something like
house.
that, yeah.
Yeah, and you're hoping that if you do buy the house, as you get older and you pay off the mortgage, then you can maybe sell it and move on to retirement years somewhere, or help your daughter with the wedding. Samantha, I know
That
your
would
daughter.
be great, yes.
Maybe help her with the down payment on a house. You know, so that's pretty much how America's gone. You know, not everybody's rich, loaded, or landed a great job. You know, it's great stuff you see on TV.
Absolutely.
So with regards to millennials and marriage, we discussed that. They're doing studies to try and figure out which way this school of fish is swimming. You know, where you guys going? How do we catch them?
I know.
So one of the other issues that are coming up in the research that's being done on Wall Street and Forbes and Investor magazines that I was reading is the student loans weren't what they used to be. More parents paid for college back in the day. Less people went to college. Now, a lot more people are going to college, and the colleges jacked up the price.
Sure did.
You know, so it's supply and demand, you know, so now it's everybody's trying to jam into college. They're getting hit with these student loans, which you have to pay. You can't go bankrupt and, you know, knock them out or avoid paying them. You have to pay these, and the student loan debt is at the biggest of all-time history.
And it's awful. I mean, it's only going to go up from here, right?
It only
That's what it
will go up
looks
from
like,
here.
yeah.
It's only going to go. I don't see it. You know, sometimes you can tell when a market's starting to level off. It's just going completely skyrocketing.
Well, now, is it true that if you have like student loans or whatnot, if you go into the teaching field, do those go away? I heard a rumor that, you know, it's something
in
happens
certain
with that.
regions. Like if you want to become a teacher in Niagara Falls, you know, unfortunately is one of the probably the most dangerous cities in the New York State to live in. If you go into certain regions, they're looking for quote unquote millennials. I mean, they're not going to ask a guy in his 70s to come in and start teaching elementary
Hey, you want to
school.
teach? Come on in. Forget about all your past.
They're relying on the millennials, so
Yeah.
they're giving them. They're paying their student debt in Niagara. If you look it up, if anybody knows, you know, millennials that are looking for teaching jobs, it's a great point you brought up. I happened to be in Buffalo, and I heard the commercial on the radio. If you have nieces, nephews, friends, relatives who are looking to get into teaching or want to move to Niagara Falls,
Wow, they really had a radio ad running like that?
we'll pay your student loans. You have to
Never
live
heard
there
of
for a
that.
certain period of time, and they're hoping that you buy a house and you fix things up.
Of course.
You know, you guys have the strong backs. You can dig the ditches now. You know, we can't do it as well as you do. After this commercial break, we're going to come back. We're going to talk to Dan. We're going to talk about banking, and we're going to talk about other issues that everyone's studying with the millennials to try and get them to spend money in their business. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about the F word for a minute, foreclosure. Defaulting on your mortgage can cause a lot of stress on you, your family, and most importantly, your kids. As soon as you default, your banker sends your file over to their legal department to begin the foreclosure process. In the old days, you called every family member possible to borrow money, or you rented a U-Haul and left in the middle of the night. Well, not anymore. Now you could turn your banker's files over to your legal department, the law offices of Stephen Stutman. If you have a foreclosure problem, Stephen has the solution. Are you aware that there are many options available from your bank, the state, and the federal government? The law offices of Stephen Stutman has successfully represented their clients for over 30 years. Steve Stutman doesn't work for the banks. He works for the people and defends families' homes. So, if you are interested in keeping your home, then call Steve Stutman at 888-574-7771. When it comes to the roof over your head, Steve Stutman's got you covered. 888-574-7771. This is an attorney advertisement and an offer of assistance. Attorneys cannot guarantee results for either side. State Farm, located in the Clock Tower on Main Street in Warwick, providing auto, life, home, and business insurance, as well as banking and retirement planning for your personal and business needs. For a free quote, call 986-7100, stop in, or visit us at warwickinns.com.
Hi, this is Dan Castricone. Join me every Thursday from 12 to 1 on WTBQ for the Dan Castricone Radio Show. We'll take your phone calls, have exciting guests, talk about current events, maybe a little politics. Thursdays from 12 to 1 on WTBQ.
Hi, this is Lorraine on the Tuesday Roundtable. We're going to talk about things that affect you here in Orange County. This show is going to continue to be your forum for that discussion. So don't forget Tuesdays, 9 a.m. here on WTBQ, 11:10 a.m. and 93.5 FM.
WTBQ.
Now I'm back, and it's nice to be back. I'll tell you this, we were just talking off the air with Dan about, in my opinion, I think the millennials got it. I think they get it. I think they're smarter than the generations before them. It's funny because I said to Kerry last night, we were GPS, to come home from Nantucket, and I never drove that same route before. I never drove that route that the GPS took me. I knew my father's route, my grandfather's route, my route. My route was the best route. My route beat my grandfather, my father. I got everybody beat.
So this was way beyond your territory here. You didn't even know where this was taking you.
I had no idea where I was going.
It.
Well, technology, it said there was an accident, or not accident, it was a traffic incident ahead, and it asked me if I wanted to change my route or
hold on, your
on.
GPS tells you if there's an accident up ahead on the road you're traveling?
Yeah.
Wow. See, I use is that an iPhone, or is that built in your car?
It's in the Ford, in the
car?
Explorer.
I use the one on the iPhone app, and it's great, but it doesn't tell you when there's an accident. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mine does in the BMW also.
Wow.
Yeah, it says traffic incident ahead. I don't know how it gets the information. I don't know if the cops put it in or the DOT. I have no idea, but it's pretty cool. So in the old days, we would just continue driving. The reason I'm telling you this story is because I was thinking because I'm doing a study on the millennials. Everybody's asking, what's going on with my market? Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't that work? And I'm driving along, and I'm thinking, my father would never taken this route. It's the best route. It's my route. My grandfather never took this route. But the GPS is telling me, would you like the option of getting off the road and finding the new route to go around the traffic jam? And I said to myself, this is the millennials generation. You guys can avoid all the stupid mistakes that I made, my father made, my grandfather made.
I mean, they really make it so, especially showing up to work or whatnot, you really have no excuse to be late anymore. You have to be on time. Your GPS will show you the correct way to go. So it's just correcting a lot of issues.
Well, that's kind of life, and that's what I talk about with banking when I tell everybody, I hope that millennials are listening. They don't make the same stupid mistakes going with a retail banker instead of a membership banker, which is a credit union as opposed to a bank. I'm not trying to make money on giving people advice. I'm just telling them, like the GPS, avoid the traffic jam. You can go around this.
Showing them the right way to go.
Yeah, just don't make the same stupid mistake. But with all these studies and these studies and these studies, the one thing I learned from all the studies that I read, you guys get it. I think the result is from the studies, don't be as stupid as your grandparents and your parents were. Learn from their mistakes.
Well, yeah, everything is much simpler these days. I mean, it really it drives me nuts when some of the older generation doesn't want to use some pieces of the technology. Whether it's the iPhones or anything like that. Really, I mean, everything is at your fingertips, and the world is here to make it much more easier for you.
It's a tool.
It is. We're all tools.
Yeah, we are tools.
We're all tools.
We really
these
are
days.
tools. It's a tool, But you know what? Telling an old carpenter, look, you can use this, cordless saw to cut 2x4s, and then he starts arguing with you. My grandfather used this saw. I use this song.
Unfortunately, that'll always happen.
Yeah, I try to break myself of that. I try to not be like that. My father was never like that, I have to say. He was not thick-headed like that.
Okay, always adapted with the times.
He always adapted with the times, always liked the newer music, always listened, always hung out with younger people.
That's a big point as well with the music. You know, music's constantly changing, and you know, people don't necessarily like the taste of new music as well. So
it's changed a lot.
A lot. Every generation, every decade.
Yeah, and there's stuff I don't like with the music, the new stuff that comes out, but there's stuff that I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whatever.
I'm not closed-minded. I'm not going to stay stuck in one generation. So, and that's the whole conversation here. Like I said, Wall Street is pounding the pavement. They're interviewing people, and that's why I had you on the show today. So you have 4 friends that haven't bought. So they're still, I mean, do they have bank accounts? Do they have checking accounts?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I'm sure they do. They all have jobs.
I mean, do you guys talk about that stuff? I mean, compare notes like, hey, I just opened up an account at Chase, or, you know, I just opened up an account
unfortunately
here.
not. I mean, we'll hang out and watch like sport games and stuff like that, just catch up and see how everyday life is. But no, I really won't discuss anything like that.
So they're in their low 20s, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
They have no interest in buying property, buying real estate. They don't own cars. They lease cars, buy cars.
They have cars. I mean, nothing crazy. You know, they'll have the the old 20-year-old hoopties or whatever. The 1994 Toyota
I just got rid of my
Camrys.
hoopty. I loved my hoopty.
Everybody's had one. So.
Yeah, they're great. I had a 98 Honda, and everybody would say, it doesn't look like a guy with a suit should be stepping out of this banged up Honda with black tinted windows for some reason.
It's like that Better Call Saul show with, did you ever seen the Breaking Bad?
I saw the scene, the upcoming scenes for that show.
They have the spinoff of Better Call Saul, he's like a sleazebag lawyer that was from Breaking Bad, and he stars in the new show, and he's just driving around in a hoopty, and he's a lawyer. So people are meeting him, and he's pulling up in this car, like, what's the deal with this guy?
Oh, it was a real sight when I'd fly through Tuxedo, and the cops would pull me over, and I'd crack the window 3 inches, and they see me in the suit. They're like, "What is this?"
Don't judge a book by its cover.
You don't match the hoopty, but just getting back to the millennials real quick with the spending of money. What's the deal with spending money? I mean, the study I just read on was they don't want to make the same mistakes their parents did, so they're avoiding marriage completely so they don't have to deal with the divorce thing. The divorce is, 65, 70% marriages end up in divorce.
Crazy.
So the other thing is they're avoiding is buying property. I'm sorry, Wayne at Better Homes.
Not trying to hurt you out there.
He's counting on millennials to come write the checks. I'm sorry about that. But they don't have a problem with living in an apartment or living in a condo. They don't want to deal with the windows and deal with the cutting the grass and deal with everything like that. And that's why I said I think they're smarter. I think they get it. I think you guys get it better. You don't want to make the same stupid mistakes that we did. We were married to a mortgage, married to the house, always stressed out, 2 margaritas a night because you got to make the payments, you got to make the money, you got to move on to the next gig.
Yeah.
And you didn't spend time with your wife, you didn't spend time with your daughter watching her grow up. So I think that's what I've gotten from the study, why they aren't spending money. I think they want a better quality of life.
Now, but when are they spending the money? Is it when they enter their 30s?
I would say probably in 30s, but that knocks out like a 10-year gap. We just got out of a banking collapse, mortgage crisis. We're still cleaning up that mess. It's like, do you really want to go down that road with that big car accident, ahead? It doesn't seem like the millennials are diving into spending
taking it
debt.
very slow, step by step.
Now, did your friends go to college?
Some of them have gone to college. A majority of them community colleges. My best friend actually went to Syracuse University, and he's the prime example. He owes, he's going to owe 50+ grand a semester. And he went for 4 years. So just racks it on up.
So he's going to have student loans, you think? Or
Yeah. He's in debt. He's
and he's got to get Obamacare.
Yeah,
unless where he works. Where does he work?
It's a funny situation. He found an opportunity of an internship, and he's actually doing this internship in the country of Panama.
Wow.
So that is where he is right now. Apparently, they had some kind of vision where they bought a property in Panama, and they have some kind of vision where it's how the world's supposed to be run years from now with new kind of technology and energy efficient stuff. So they basically needed test subjects, people to live there, and he's one of them.
Test subjects. And that's exactly
crazy.
what you are today, a test
That's
subject.
what I am. I'm here to answer any question.
Well, the funny thing is, they did say that craft beer is doing phenomenal because of the millennials. That's a bad thing for Anheuser-Busch, but that's another subject for
It
another
is.
day.
It's the way of the future. I mean, those craft beers are something else.
Yeah, the millennials like the craft beers. Now, what about, besides student loans, what about the Obamacare situation? You guys talk about that at all? You're forced
No,
to pay it. If you don't pay
yeah.
it, you're going to get whacked on your tax return.
Yeah, nothing, we just know we have to get it or else we're charged, for at tax time, that kind of stuff. But no, it's not something we really bring up on a daily basis. I don't know how if that makes us bad people or whatnot, but no, it's something that we really don't think about on a daily basis. We just do our daily civil duties, I guess.
Well, when I had my first job in the mortgage company, they asked me if I wanted benefits, medical benefits, and I started laughing. I said, I'm not going to get sick. I'm 18 years old. What could possibly happen? So that's the way
You actually
think.
had the option.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. That was pretty cool, and thanks for coming on today.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, Dan.
appreciate you having me on, sir.
Instead of me reading from the news who you are.
You got it from a first-hand perspective, and I think that's the best way to get information.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
You
We'll
got it,
see you
sir.
guys next week. That's where the money is.